Is it still cheaper to buy from a US retailer online? Well, as always, it depends. Let's take a look at an example of something that looks much cheaper south of the border and see if the savings are as great as we initially think after it crosses the border and finally ends up in our hands. Let's say you're a photographer and you want a professional piece of lighting equipment. The best price you can find in Canada is $2,799 before tax. If we're in a province where HST is 13%, that adds $363.87 to the price, for a total of $3,162.87 Canadian. Now, let's say you found a US retailer that ships to Canada and they are offering the same piece of equipment for only $2,249 US. Before we tackle the exchange rate, we have to add up a number of costs. Shipping and handling on this real-world example was $76.10. The brokerage fee charged by the courier company in this case is $13.76. You'll still have to pay HST when you bring it across the border. In this case, it's $292.37 US. And here's something that can catch you out. Camera equipment is not subject to duty, but camera lighting equipment is. And in this case, the rate of duty is 7%, for another $157.43. This brings us to a total of $2,788.66 US. If the Canadian dollar buys you 87 cents US, then applying the conversion gives us a Canadian dollar total of $3,205.36. But wait, there's one more thing. Your credit card likely charges you 2.5% for currency conversion, so add another $80.13. Now, your total cost ends up being $3,285.49. So that same item that initially looked cheaper at $2,249 US versus $2,799 Canadian ended up being just a bit more expensive after all was said and done. When comparing items online in the States versus here, make sure you factor in all the costs. They can certainly add up in a hurry.